Hi everyone, my name is Alexandra and today we're going to go on a tour of the cell. Before we start, let me ask a quick question. How many of you have heard the phrase mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell? Well, today we're going to find out why this is true and learn about all the other organelles that help cells stay alive. We're going to be following Campbell Biology Chapter 6. Okay, now we're going to go over some of our goals. So today we're going to compare different types of cells, identify the major organelles of a cell, learn the function of each organelle, and we're going to answer some common science bowl questions. One trick that helps a lot is remembering the job of each organelle, and we'll focus on that throughout this. Okay, our big ideas today are that the cells are the basic unit of life. You get tested on that a lot in science bowl. Like the questions will be, what is a basic unit of life? And then the answer would be cells. And another one is that all living things are made out of cells. And then cell structure determines the function of the cell. And eukaryotic cells have specialized organelles. Okay, let's start with one of the most important ideas in biology, the cell theory. It tells us three main points. First, all living things are made out of cells. Second, cells are the basic units of life. And third, all cells come from pre-existing cells. Whether we're talking about a tiny bacterium, a tree, or a human being, everything is built from cells. There's two main types of cells. Prokaryotic cells, such as bacteria, don't have a nucleus or membrane-bound organelles. As you can see in this picture here, let me put on my laser. As you can see in this picture here, it does not have any of these colorful organelles, and it also doesn't have a nucleus, so its DNA is just floating around in a lump, and the ribosomes are also just floating around. Prokaryotic cells are found in the domains bacteria and archaea. Next, we have eukaryotic cells, which are found in plants, animals, fungi, and protists, and they do have a nucleus and many specialized organelles. Think of it this way. A prokaryotic cell is like a one-room studio apartment, while a eukaryotic cell is like a house with many rooms, each designed for a specific job. Okay, now we're going to talk about animal cells and plant cells. Both of them share many of the same organelles, but they also have very important differences. One of the biggest differences is that plant cells have a cell wall. They also have chloroplasts and a large central vacuole. These special structures help plants make food, store water, and maintain their shape. In this picture, you can see that this plant cell has a huge vacuole in the middle, while the animal cell does not. Some animal cells do have vacuoles, but they don't have the central vacuole like plants. This dark brown wall you see covering this plant cell is called the cell wall, and as you can see here, the animal cell does not contain a cell wall. Also, these green ovals, they're called chloroplasts, and they are only in plant cells. In animal cells, there are no chloroplasts. Let's move on to a really important cell organelle, the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane surrounds the cell and acts like a security gate. It controls what enters and leaves the cell, and it helps maintain a stable environment. Without the plasma membrane, the cell wouldn't be able to function properly. It has a phospholipid bilayer, as you can see here. So the phospholipid bilayer is, it consists of two layers of phospholipids. This is a large picture of a phospholipid, and the gray area is the head, and it's hydrophilic, meaning it's permeable to water. The two yellow sticks are called the tails, and they're hydrophobic, so they're non-permeable to water. The plasma membrane also contains proteins, which are these purple bluish lumps in the middle of this, and these. They help transport and signaling. Next, we have the most important organelle of all, the nucleus. This is a control center. As we said before, we're going to be focusing on the job of each organelle, and the job of the nucleus is a control center. It controls everything that goes on in the cell. It contains DNA, which is chromatin or chromosomes. As you see here, this wound up structure, and it's surrounded by a nuclear envelope. It's right here. And it has an outer membrane and an inner membrane. The nuclear pores, which are these purplish, like reddish purple dots you see here that kind of look like flowers. And the nucleolus is this dark purple region you see here. And the nucleolus makes the ribosomes. You can think of the nucleus as a cell's headquarters where all the important information is stored. Ribosomes are next. They're the protein factors of the cell, so they make the proteins. They build the proteins by following instructions from DNA, and since proteins are used for structure, movement, and communication, and a lot of other functions, ribosomes are some of the busiest structures in the cell. They are working 24/7. Another main point is that ribosomes are not membrane bound, and they have a small subunit and a large subunit, as you see in this diagram here. And there's two types of ribosomes. One is called free ribosomes. As you see here, you can't really see it, but there's these dark brown dots that are just floating around in the cytoplasm. These are called free ribosomes, and some of them are, you see these dark brown dots that are attached to the blue region here. Those are bound ribosomes. Next, we have the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER for short. It comes in two forms, the rough ER and the smooth ER. First, we'll talk about the rough ER. It's covered with ribosomes, hence the name rough, and it helps process and transport proteins. The rough ER is the part right here you see that is covered in the small brown dots, which are ribosomes. The smooth ER makes lipids and helps detoxify certain substances. The smooth ER is this part right here that is completely free of the brown dots. It also helps store calcium. Together they help manufacture and move important materials throughout the cell. Next, we have the Golgi apparatus, or some people also call it the Golgi body. They're the same thing. It's well known as the shipping center of the cell. It modifies, sorts, packages, and sends protein to their destinations. If Amazon ran a cell, the Golgi apparatus would probably be its warehouse. Okay, there's 3 steps to how it works. First, it modifies proteins and lipids inside of its structure, and then it packages into vesicles. Vesicles are these blue things you see here, this, and this. And then it sends them to their correct destinations. Next, we have vesicles. As we mentioned before, they transport materials throughout the cell, and then they carry proteins and lipids between organelles, and they do endocytosis and exocytosis. They're small membrane-bound sacs that transport materials around the cell. They can carry proteins and other molecules. You can think of vesicles as the delivery trucks of the cell. Next, we have lysosomes. Lysosomes are small, but they're very important. They're well known as the recycling center, and you can remember them as a recycling center. Their job is to recycle. They contain digestive enzymes that break down waste materials, damaged organelles, and unwanted substances. This recycling process helps the cell clean and efficient. The digestive enzymes that they contain are also called hydrolytic enzymes. As you see in this diagram here, the little blue dots inside the lysosome, those are the hydrolytic enzymes. And then how they digest stuff is that they fuse with this food vacuole that comes in, and then the blue dots, the enzymes, digest the food particles inside the food vacuole. Another way they can digest is they can also digest damaged cell parts like this mitochondria in here, and then so they fuse with the vesicle, same as with the food vacuole except for it's a vesicle, and then they digest the organelle components. Next we have the peroxisomes, which you might have seen in the last slide. They are the detox center. They detoxify substances. They help protect the cell by breaking down harmful substances and certain fatty acids. And then also one of their jobs is to help neutralize hydrogen peroxide, also known as H2O2, and it's a chemical that can damage cells if it builds up. This is a peroxisome here. Oh, my laser is like lagging. It's fine. Right here. Next, we'll move on to the mitochondria. I feel like the mitochondria is really famous for being known as the powerhouse of the cell. Like, the role of the mitochondria is so well known. It's like a scientific meme. They're known as the power plants of the cell, or the powerhouse of the cell, because they produce ATP, the cell's main source of energy. Inside the mitochondrion is a matrix right here. This is a matrix inside that have the ribosomes floating inside, and then it contains enzymes that help process food molecules. The mitochondria has a double membrane, and then the cristae right here, they increase surface area for ATP production. Another important thing about mitochondria that's often tested during science school is that it has its own DNA. It does cellular respiration, and then this is the equation for cellular respiration. Glucose plus 6 oxygen form 6 carbon dioxide molecules, 6 water molecules, and the most important, ATP. Next, we have the chloroplasts. The chloroplasts are basically the solar power plant of the plant cell. They're only found in plant cells. Remember that, only plant cells. So they're found in plant cells and algae. They capture energy from sunlight and use it to make sugars through the process of photosynthesis. You can think of them as tiny solar-powered food factories. They contain chlorophyll, which are these green stacks you see here. And then the equation for photosynthesis is this. 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 6 water molecules and light energy from the sun mostly, and then it forms a molecule of glucose and 6 molecules of oxygen. Next, we have the vacuoles, which are the storage compartments inside the cell. They store water, nutrients, and waste materials. Plant cells often have one very large central vacuole that helps maintain pressure and keeps the plant upright. Animal cells often have multiple small ones. Next, let's talk about the cell wall. The cell wall is only found in plant cells. It's found outside the plasma membrane, and it provides support, protection, and structure. Most plant cell walls are made out of cellulose, which is a strong carbohydrate that helps plants stand upright. The plant cell wall is this dark brown region you see outside of the cell in this picture. Next, let's talk about the cytoskeleton, which might seem like a small part of this, but it's actually really important. It's the cell's internal framework. If the cell didn't have a cytoskeleton, it would just be like one big lump of stuff, I guess. It helps maintain the cell's shape, and it supports the organelles, and it also allows movement inside the cell. It has three main filaments. It has three main things. So microtubules, which are the thickest, they're these yellow string-like things that you see protruding from this, which is called a centriole. And then next, microfilaments, which are also called actin filaments, are these things you see right here. And then intermediate filaments are these purple strings you see here. So cell junctions, these are very important. These get tested so much in science school. Okay, so cells need to connect and communicate with each other, just like we need to communicate with like our friends and neighbors. The cell junctions help cells stick together, and it also prevents leak. And then, as I said, it allows communication between cells. They're really important in tissues like skin, muscle, and organs. There's 3 types of cell junctions. Tight junctions, which are these right here. They prevent leaks between cells because they hold the cells really tightly together, like you can see in the name. And then desmosomes, which are these like stringy things, and then it holds cells together. And then gap junctions, which are these, they allow communication. Okay. This is very important to remember. The tight junctions seal, desmosomes give strength, and gap junctions give communication. Let's finish with a quick review. The nucleus is the control center. Ribosomes are the protein factories. The Golgi apparatus is a shipping center. Vesicles are delivery trucks. Lysosomes are recycling centers. Peroxisomes are detox centers. Mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. Chloroplasts are solar-powered food factories. And vacuoles are storage warehouses. These are some Science Bowl practice questions, and feel free to pause the video and answer these questions. Okay, now I'm going to show the answers. If you remember the jobs of these organelles, you'll be well prepared for many Science Bowl questions and have a strong foundation for future biology courses. Thank you so much for joining me on our tour of the cell, and good luck in Science Bowl. Thank you to Campbell Biology, and subscribe for more biology and Science Bowl lessons. Bye.